I don't remember ever being so livid after a game. Not for a long time, anyway. Postecoglou's lineup combined with a match that, let's face it, we've basically seen for what feels like every season of the last 6 or 7 years, led me to genuinely screaming at the television last night and nearly posting a psychotic rant video late before bed. In the end, I didn't, and for that, I have to thank a man who had been so abused by his own fans last week that he deleted his social media accounts. I'll be discussing last night's Coventry debacle, as well as all the latest Premier League transfer talk on today's episode. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. Please do press the like button. Please do subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and become a member. Only £1 a month really helps me make this content for you. But where else is there to start but last night? Coventry 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2 in the end. I could almost not remember because just trying to delete it from my memory already. As I said in the opening, how many times in the past 6, 7, 8 years have we seen Tottenham go to a lower division club, or even have a lower division club at home, play a weakened team, be arrogant enough to think that we can get our way through in either the Carabao or the FA Cup with a weakened team when we're playing against a side where it's basically their cup final. They're up for it. They've got a bigger attendance than they usually do. They've got more fans there. They know it's on television. It's an opportunity to put themselves in the shop window as players. And you could just tell from the start, Coventry City were about 10% more up for it than Spurs, maybe even more. Snapping into every tackle, first to every challenge, picking up every second ball. And Tottenham, sure, had 72% possession, but not a single shot on goal until something like the 55th minute. It's just embarrassing. They got booed off at halftime by the travelling Spurs fans. Spurs fans who go all the way to Coventry on a Wednesday night. Like, I don't know. I don't know where to start. I'm gonna start with Ange Postecoglou's comments. Bear in mind, Ange Postecoglou in the past week has been talking about the importance of winning silverware for this football club. And then he plays Fraser Forster in goal. I've got nothing personally against Fraser Forster, but he is not somebody that you can trust. He had a fine game last night as it goes. He didn't really have much to do. But I just think playing Fraser Forster, and I have to say also playing Timo Werner in a game like that, where you know you're going to play against a team who are going to have 11 men behind the ball most of the time, except for when they're counter-attacking. Playing Timo Werner in a game like that, playing Fraser Forster in a game like that, it is basically calling on the opposition. The opposition are going to see that team and they're going to say, got a big chance today, boys. And adds to that extra 10% that I've already talked about. Anyway, after the game, Ange Postecoglou said this: "It was a tough game. Credit to Coventry. I thought they were outstanding. They really took it to us. We had to hang in there somehow, and we did. In the end, credit to the lads. It was a typical cup tie." You have to give credit to Coventry. What were you expecting? You're surprised that they've put in a really good performance against a Premier League team in a match that's on Sky Sports. It's going to have a bigger audience than usual, where all the sides that hate Spurs and Spurs fans are just rubbing their hands with glee, looking at how obvious it is a possibility that Tottenham are going to get rolled over in a banana skin. Giving credit to Coventry in a game where Postecoglou, he must know that he's starting to get under pressure. He must know that since that first 10 games of last season, the form has been mid-table at best. I know he's just saying words in a press conference, but does he realise the situation he's in? I have to say, during the game yesterday, I was texting some of my friends. There was a part when I was like, does Postecoglou want to get sacked here? Starting a team like this in a game. Does he think Coventry are bad? They nearly rolled over Man United in the semi-final of the FA Cup. They were one terrible VAR decision away from being in the cup final. I was texting my mates, like, maybe he wants to go. Maybe it's like, maybe the truth is that he's not got the players in the transfer window that he wanted. That he's not happy with the way that Enoch and Daniel Levy are giving him the players. He's not getting who he wants. And he wants his payoff. That's what I was thinking halfway through that game. The other thing I kept saying, and I tweeted about it as well, was the players didn't look like they were playing for him. Now, look, what I will say is they've never played together before. So there's no rhythm. There's not going to be any rhythm there. I get it. But I don't know. I'll tell you what it really was. It was a lack of courage. It was a lack of bravery. There's a feeling amongst some of those players that if they try and take risks on the ball, then the ball gets taken off them or it gets intercepted, then the crowd, even though it's an away crowd, it's not the home crowd at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they get upset, they chunter, they groan. And that is exactly the opposite of what Postecoglou is all about. He wants them to be brave all the time. And to be honest, until that moment where we got the equaliser, which showed some bravery and courage from Deki Kulusevski, our best player this season so far, he was basically the first player who took a risk on a little through ball. Most of the rest of the time, everyone was playing incredibly safe. Anyway, Ange goes on the performance. He says, we weren't as fluid performance-wise. Some of that is down to Coventry. Jesus Christ, what do you expect, Ange? They played with high energy. What do you expect? Carabao Cup. A chance for them to get one over on a Premier League team. In the end, I was pleased both for Jed Spence and Brennan Johnson. They'd come on and made the difference for us and made a difference in the game. Well, that's true. I have to be honest, though. I'm not just going to give it after the fact. I thought in his first kind of 10, 15 minutes on the pitch, Jed Spence looked uncomfortable in that left-back position. He grew into it. He didn't. And what he showed in the end is actually, I think he's a really good option as a spare right-back. I would have much preferred him to start at right-back over Archie Gray, who I'll go into later in the episode, but I thought he was incredibly tame last night, Archie Gray. Very sideways and backwards, and almost the epitome for me of someone who was scared of taking risks. He had one good run where he kind of jinked past someone. I'm not saying he was bad. He's a young player. He's raw. But I thought he was the epitome of someone who was not really brave enough. On what Brennan Johnson's goal will do for his confidence, Anne said this. Hopefully a great deal. He's a fantastic young man, a great player. I have a lot of time for him because he works so hard every day. He took his goal well tonight and he made a good impact. That's true. Brennan Johnson looks like a proper bloke to me. He looks like a proper young talent who wants to learn. He is too young to be the scapegoat of Tottenham Hotspur fans. It's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. It's embarrassing. Any of you abusing Brennan Johnson online should be ashamed of yourselves. He also went on to talk about those two. He said, both were really good. They made an impact when they came on. Look, it wasn't an easy night for us. As I said, credit to Coventry. Jesus Christ. But, you know, a lot of guys getting first starts, but I really think there's some positives in there with Archie and Lucas and these guys getting some significant game time for us. And Jed, and as you said with Brennan, you know, I spoke about it yesterday, that he comes in, works hard at his game, and when you're an attacking player, you're always kind of getting measured against certain things. I guess he means data and other players. I said if he can get through this period and just be positive and play like he can be a significant contributor to us, and credit to him, he got a good goal tonight. It was a good finish. He will have been under a lot of pressure in that moment, and to choose the dinked finish while the goalkeeper's rushing out of him, it was impressive, it was brave, and it was huge for Tottenham. I wrote a tweet when Timo Werner went off yesterday. I wrote a tweet that said, Timo Werner pretending to be injured might have saved Ange's job. And maybe it's hyperbole. Maybe there's a bit of exaggeration there, but I really genuinely worried for Ange Postecoglou if we lost last night. And also, I think Werner was having such a bad game that he pretended to be injured. I don't know. It's dangerous for me to say that about a professional. Maybe I'm over-egging the pudding. Maybe he felt something, sure, but he did not want to brave it out. I think the fans were getting on his back. And then bringing on Kulusevski was key to us getting that somehow those two late goals. Andrew was asked on how significant the result is for Spurs. There's no easy or quick fix to where we want to get to, and one result doesn't change that. We showed what we have been missing the first 4 games, a little bit of spirit and fight to win. We've lacked a little bit of an edge, and hopefully tonight gives the boys a little bit of belief. Well, Ange, I'm sorry, mate, to coin one of your phrases, but how is that going to give the boys a bit of belief when 8 of them basically don't play? Because you switched out all 8 of the 11 players, there's not going to change much in terms of the first team, is it? I guess Kulusevski and Son came on. Sonny didn't do much again, did he? Kulusevski came on. I guess a bit of belief maybe into Brennan Johnson, but what are you playing at? I sometimes wonder whether some of those players are contracted, that they have to play in that first Carabao Cup game, by which I mean Fraser Forster. I think it must be in his contract. If he plays in the next round, if we get a tough draw in the next round, which we probably will, if he plays in the next round, it's bananas. You might as well give up on that. And I don't think Spurs are in a strong enough position where we can think, oh, we're definitely going to go deep in the Europa League or in the FA Cup. So try and do well in the Carabao Cup. Pick your best team in the Carabao Cup while other teams aren't picking their best teams. Get to the final, win something, and get some actual belief into the club. That's what we need to be doing. Jamie Redknapp was a pundit on Sky Sports last night, and he was not afraid to go in on Spurs. He said Spurs were so poor and going nowhere fast, and will be mightily relieved. But they have to make sure that this is a turning point for them. I didn't like the team he picked. I'm a big fan of Ange, but I thought he took liberties tonight. I'm sorry, I absolutely agree. And I'll say this, Jamie Redknapp always goes in on Spurs because he's angry about the way that he was treated when he was at the club, and he's angry at the way his dad was treated when he was sacked by Daniel Levy despite getting a 4th place. So he always goes in on Spurs a bit. But I agree with him here. He says he didn't select a strong enough team, but he's got away with it. Tottenham were diabolical up until the goals. I think that's an understatement, frankly. Coventry were the better team. Totally agree. Coventry could have smashed us. They could have smashed us like 4-5-0. Honestly, they had all the chances in that game. Ange Postecoglou will be so relieved. Tottenham got away with one. They were very, very fortunate. And now I'm just going to go into the team and give my thoughts on kind of all the performances last night. Like I said, no offence on Fraser Forster, but he shouldn't be playing in games like that. For me, he's a fine kind of Scott Carson figure. Scott Carson has been 3rd choice goalkeeper at Manchester City for a decade, and he's never played a game. That is where Fraser Forster should be. He was a good professional back in the day, but he's like 35, 36 now. He's too big. One credit I will give him, he is much better at coming for corners than Vicario is. He is much stronger. He just uses his physical weight to get through the bodies and gets a big fist on it. And he needs to be teaching Vicario that. That is Fraser Forster's job at Tottenham Hotspur now. Show Vicario how to be absolutely aggressive when coming for crosses, when coming for set pieces, when coming for corners. That is what Forster needs to be doing. Archie Gray, I've already said a bit. I don't want to be down on the kid. I think he's going to be a good talent. I do. But he was just a little bit sideways and backwards. You really noticed the difference between him and Porro yesterday. Porro is a lot more forward thinking, a lot more progressive, willing to go forward a lot more and take players on, give and go. And we missed that with Gray yesterday. He was tentative, I thought. Udogie, I'm slightly starting to worry about. I don't know if it's that he hasn't fully recovered from his injury or whether he is worried about being kind of going in 100% to everything because he doesn't want to get injured again. But he's just not as powerful and as he doesn't drive quite as hard this season as he did certainly at the beginning of last season. He's such a talent. But I thought last night, little bit 6 out of 10, 5, 6 out of 10 last night. It was a bit of a weird one. But let me know if you disagree in the comments. Ben Davies, fine. I'm never going to get as angry at Ben Davies as a lot of people do. He's a good professional. You know what you're going to get. He's a better progressive passer than people give him credit for. But there are a few, again, you're always going to get this few little hiccups yesterday because he's playing centre-back. He's not a centre-back, certainly not in a 4. He plays well in a centre-back in a 5 for Wales, and under Jose and Antonio Conte, he was able to do that on the left-hand side. But you are, like as Redknapp said, you're taking liberties playing players like Ben Davies in a 4 against a team against Coventry away from home on a Wednesday night in the Carabao Cup. And we nearly suffered as a result. The goal that we conceded, I'm not saying it's totally Ben Davies' fault, but the back 4, because they don't play together, the reality of that was it was easy. It was completely easy. All they had to do was get down the left, one good final ball, easy. Dragishin was fine. Not a lot to say about him. Bentancur. I have to say, I said it last week. I think players like Bentancur have to start looking over their shoulders. If one of these young players can really take the bull by the horns and start playing well in these kind of games where they get chances, Bentancur could be out on his ear. There's no way that he should be playing ahead of Basuma at the moment. And I know Basuma's injured, but as soon as he comes back in, Basuma's got to take it off him because Basuma is a lot braver, shows a lot more courage. And Bentancur, for me, flattered to deceive last night. Didn't do a great deal. Pape Matar, not a player you want to bring in where you need to control the game and have good technical players on the ball. His touch last night at times was so poor, getting away from him all the time. And that kind of form of early last season when him and Basuma and Maddison were playing little triangles between themselves and he was using his engine and his legs to get up and down the pitch and making late runs into the box. It's gone. It has gone at the moment. I think he was in the African Cup of Nations in the summer, was he? Or was that last January? He looks tired. Looks like he needs a rest. And a bit worried about Pape Matar at the moment. I thought Lucas Bergvall did okay. He looked good first half. The only one really willing to take players on, really willing to do things. Tired a bit in the second half, but when he took Bergvall off and Werner stayed on the pitch, Ange sometimes, like I was saying earlier, does he want to be sacked? What is he doing? You've got to keep the players on who, when you're in a difficult situation, drawing or losing a game like that, you leave the players on the pitch who can do something. We got lucky in the end, but when he kept Werner on and Bergvall went off, my God. Timo Werner, I'm sorry, I'm not one who's been as negative about Werner as everybody else, but his touch yesterday was bad. The ball kept kind of flying off him. He has totally, like, if he hadn't lost his confidence before he came to Spurs back in his Chelsea days, and he hadn't got it back when he was at Red Bull, Leipzig, it's absolutely shot to pieces now. And like I said, I think he may have slightly over-egged it when it came to coming off, and Tottenham are lucky that he did, and Ange is lucky that he did. He should not be starting a game for Spurs again, and I don't know why he keeps bringing him on. And I know everyone wants Mikey Moore and stuff, and I get it, but it's about blooding these players at the right time. But there was absolutely nothing to lose from bringing Mikey Moore on yesterday. He should have done that. Dominic Solanke huffed and puffed. He presses, but we didn't make him a chance. But he presses well, he huffed and puffed. Odobert, obviously very unlucky with his injury. Can but hope it's not a bad one, but Ange Postecoglou said after the game it looked significant. Maddison, I thought, looked decent when he came on, wanted to do things. Again, maybe slightly too deep, but that's going to happen. Brennan Johnson, great finish. Deki Kulusevski, best player of our season, like I said. And Jed Spence, a brilliant finish. Took the risk on the run. Kulusevski took the risk on the through ball. Great finish. I'd like to see Spence getting more minutes, but on the right-hand side. Maybe in the Europa League, maybe in the Carabao Cup next round. He can come in for Poro. Worth going through Jed Spence's stats because he got that equaliser, which was huge for Spurs. 45 minutes played, 1 goal, 26 out of 28 passes completed, 1 chance created, both out of 2 tackles, 1, 2 clearances, 2 headed clearances, 2 ball recoveries, and no fouls committed. Good performance for Jed Spence, like I said. I thought he looked a little lost in his first 10-15 minutes, but got into it. And also, maybe he was lost in those first 10-15 minutes because he just hasn't played any games, really, and there's no rhythm there. Before the game, Ange was asked about making those 8 changes. He said this: it's a combination of factors. One is we want to win, so we want to put out a strong lineup. What does he mean when he's saying that? Does he mean, oh, well, the option is I could have put out an academy team? You can't say you want to put out a strong lineup with 8 changes. If you rated those players above the first team players, they'd be in the first team for the Premier League. I don't know, he contradicts himself. Some guys who we feel need some game time because they've been training really well. Sure, okay, I understand that. It's good, I thought, that Archie Gray started, that Lucas Bergvall started. But Werner? No. No. Some others have been left out because there's still a bit of recovery from the weekend's game. Overall, we feel the lineup can do the job tonight. If that is the message that he's getting into his players, here, you can play tonight because we think you can do the job. Of course they're going to go out at about 60% motivated because he's basically saying to them, you know, you're not good enough to get in my Premier League team, but tonight against a lower division team, you can do a job. You can do the job. Dearie me. They're ready to play and I'm excited to give them the opportunity. They've been patient, Archie, Lucas and Wilson. It'll be great to get them out there and I'm sure they'll put in a good account of themselves. They've been training really well. Look, I'm a fan of Ange Postecoglou. I think he's the right man, and I think there's a lack of confidence in the squad at the moment, but his messaging is not on point at the moment, and at the beginning of his Spurs career, it really was. I talked about it earlier this week. Ange is in a really interesting, difficult spot at the moment. He needs a win against Brentford big time at the weekend. He really does. But also, like I said earlier this week, Pochettino got to a point where Spurs fans were chuntering, and they started to want him out. And then he got rid of the likes of Adebayor, Kabul, the older ones, and he brought in Mason. Kane started starting every game. All those younger players. And Ange, I think, may need to do something different, like make a big switch up, make a change that shows some of those senior players that it's not easy for them. And I would start with Bergvall, actually. I'd bring Bergvall into the Premier League starting team. I would. Because I think, even though he's still raw, I think he just is always on it in terms of his motivation. He's always trying to be direct, run forward, give and go at pace. And we need to add a bit more tempo into our side at the moment. There's just a lack of confidence. Ange was asked earlier this week about the young players. He said this: "I'm really excited about the young players we brought in and the ones who are coming in. And look, another manager might be the beneficiary of them. I don't know. Is he trying to get sacked? But in the course of time, they're going to be really good footballers and make an impact. They'll only develop if they play. So we've got to give them the opportunity to play. The three we've brought in with Mikey Moore and young Will Lancashire as well. Wilson, Archie, Lucas. Well, he did play them last night. I just love watching them in training at the moment. They want to play. They want to make an impact. They don't look or behave like 18 or 19-year-olds, which is great for me. Well, I'd argue actually last night Archie Gray did. But it was his first start, to be fair. When they're 21, they're hopefully going to be flying, and it's part of our responsibility to develop them." Fair enough, but I think blood them one by one in the Premier League team. Don't throw them all in together in a team where you've made 8 changes and expect them to boss the game. I don't know, I naively hoped that would happen, but Coventry just bullied us last night. It was so much stronger and better. Earlier in the week, Postecoglou was also asked about his comments about it looking like he's failed if he doesn't win some silverware this season. He said, "Yes, I failed last year in my head because that's how I'm geared. I think I've made it pretty clear what my expectations are, but that doesn't mean that I stop. That just fuels the fire of why didn't I do it? Why didn't we achieve last year? Why didn't we win something? That gets me going for this year, and this year it's about progress." Well, if it gets you going for this year, Ange, why don't you pick a team that isn't going to look so shit against Coventry? There's no other way I could have got here. That's been my whole career, my foundation. That's why I'm sitting here. There's no other way I could have got here. No chance in any universe I could have got here from Australia and been sitting here answering questions at one of the biggest clubs in the world and the best competitions in the world if I didn't have some sort of self-belief based on something of substance. I was never going to get here with my charm and good looks. Okay, I get what he's saying there. I've won before. I know how to win. The Premier League and English football is different, mate. You've got to go hell for leather every game. We are not as strong a squad as Man City. You can't just play 11 different players and expect them just to turn them over. Man City could play 11 academy players and turn Coventry over. I'm sorry, but it's true because they've been cheating the system for so long. Buying up all the best players in the world, buying up all the best young players to put in their academy. He was asked about our trophy drought. He said, "That's my responsibility and that's why I'm in the chair, to try and change that. I came here to try to win things for the club." Really? Really, Ange? Fulham last year, Coventry last night, those teams you put out. Where do you think we're going to start? Our best chance of starting is the Carabao Cup. I think that should be our measure, and if we fall short of that, then we've fallen short, and we need to be better and improve. That's up to me, under my tenure, to try to achieve that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with embracing that. Again, I'd be surprised if anyone could dig up something I've said where I've tried to downplay anything, even when we started well last year. I said, "Look, mate, if people want to dream about us winning things, let them go for it. It's just the way I'm wired. I think it's the way forward, and you need to embrace that if you want to become a successful club and not shy away from it." It's easy to... Not easy, but it's easy to say, "Oh, this is going to take 3 or 4 years." Then yeah, it would relieve pressure. But I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years. This year's an opportunity, and then if we do well this year, next year's an opportunity. So that's the way I think about it. Take that opportunity then, Ange. Play your best team, especially in a point of the season where the best team, your Premier League starting 11, is not playing well. Play them in a game like last night. Get some rhythm into them. And then get them in the ice baths and get some more rhythm into them against Brentford. Turn Brentford over and then go to Old Trafford and win at Old Trafford, and then we can start believing again. I think it's obvious. Do you guys at home think it's obvious? Am I being mental? Ange was asked earlier in the week about Brennan Johnson, who had to delete his Instagram account because of the abuse he received from Spurs fans. He said, "You're talking about a young guy who's probably lacking a bit of confidence at the moment." Well done, Brennan, last night. I hope that's built your confidence up. Great finish. Things haven't gone his way, but he comes here every day. He's working his backside off. He's asking for feedback. He's doing everything right. He's trying so hard to become the player he wants to be. It's hurting him a lot. It's not like he's out on the town and he doesn't care and he rolls up late. So what's his crime? His crime is he isn't performing at the level that people expect of him. As a professional footballer, you've got to expect that you're going to get criticism about that. That's part of your growth. He's still a young player, and I think there is so much more of Brennan that we're going to bring out in him. It's sad for me that we've kind of normalised that stuff, that getting abuse, and it is abuse, and a lot of it is personal. It's, "Oh, well, that's part..." You're like thinking, "Oh, well," or people who are thinking, "Oh, well, that's part of the territory." I don't see that. That's what Ange Postecoglou said. Completely agree with him. He said, "For the young people today, in terms of Instagram, it's part of their world. They seem to get some sort of enjoyment from it. I don't understand it, but they do. I mean, what kind of person writes abusive things to an individual? Completely agree. Disgusting. And I'm glad Brennan Johnson stuck it to those people last night. And he looked upset when he was celebrating, didn't he? And I'm not surprised. But Brennan Johnson, I promise you, is going to be a talent. He's going to be a talent for this club. We've got to stick with him. And we've got to get the players around him who are going to put him in the areas where he's best, which is in behind those first-time crosses, or in behind crosses from the other side, finishing goals off. We haven't made him any of those this season. We haven't got him in any of those positions yet this season. And that might be because other teams have... They basically worked out how to play Ange's system, in which case Ange has to change. He has to change. He has to find something else. He has to get his coaching staff to help him find something else. Find other ways for Tottenham to score goals. Find other ways to get Brennan Johnson in behind. Find ways to get Sonny in the positions where he's best, because he's not been this season. Ange Postecoglou was asked about Decky Kulusevski's season so far. He said, I think there's a massive upside in Decky. I'm seeing more and more growth in him in that attacking midfield role. Completely agree. I think he's a natural 10. I do. I think he's a natural 10. But it might be that we need to put him back out on the right at the moment for a bit and let Johnson come in on from the substitutes bench, because we're not making enough chances and we're not getting enough crosses in the box for Dominic Solanke either. And Solanke will score a lot of goals from crosses, especially in the air. Okay, I'm going to get into some other Tottenham news. Real Madrid are apparently targeting Rodri this season, as well as Trent Alexander-Arnold for next summer, as well as potentially William Saliba, but they are going to choose between Saliba and Christian Romero, apparently. Well, take Saliba. That's my suggestion. Sammy Merkbell says that Ivan Toney was someone that Tottenham considered this season, but they moved for Dominic Solanke because ultimately he was the player that had universal approval from within the club. So some people wanted Toney, but more people wanted Solanke. According to Merkbell as well, Vicario is impressed at Tottenham since arriving at Empoli, but there is an acknowledgement that his reluctance to attack crosses is a flaw that needs improving. Well, exactly what I've been saying. That is what Fraser Forster needs to help him with. He needs to put on more weight as well, Vicario. Put on more weight and then just attack the crosses. You will not get a foul given against you if you knock players over attacking the crosses. Just do it. Also, what a shocking surprise. Gio Lo Celso makes his first full start for Betis after returning to the club from Spurs and scores a brace on his debut. Well done, Gio. Okay, before I go into other Premier League transfer news, guys, please do press that like button. Please do subscribe if you're not already a subscriber and become a member. Only £1 a month helps me make this content for you guys. Really appreciate you sticking with me. And apologies that I wasn't able to make a video yesterday or Tuesday, but I had to go to Edinburgh again, I'm afraid, for a sad family bereavement. But back now and giving you a bumper package of my anger at Tottenham, but also the Premier League transfer news. So starting at Manchester United, they're interested in Borussia Dortmund's 22-year-old forward Karim Adeyemi, but could face competition from both Newcastle and Liverpool. Actually, the transfer rumour mill is really starting to heat up now. I guess we're into kind of middle of September, aren't we? So it's only going to be a couple of months or so before January opens and clubs are starting to get their ducks in a row. Also, Bayern Munich, in terms of Man United, Bayern Munich Director Sport Max Erbel has defended the sale of Matthias de Ligt to Manchester United, saying that their club's centre-backs are more capable of defending higher up the pitch, which is what Vincent Kompany wants. Well, that may be true, but de Ligt had to leave, but Eric Dyer stays. Not so sure Dyer's the perfect centre-back to play high up the pitch. But anyway, Christian Eriksen has said, after having a good game this week in the Carabao Cup, he said, if Man United told me to leave, I would have left, but I didn't hear that. I feel very good being at United. I'm also a guy who likes being in a place where my family is settled and where I can benefit and play. That's always going to be my aim. I've said it many times. Eriksen, when he plays in the deep role for Manchester United, I just don't know why they can't play him in the 10. That's where he's best. That's where his natural role is. Give him a free role, give him the ball, and he will make assists for you and he will score goals for you. And at the week, during the week against Barnsley, he showed his finishing is still absolutely on point. Over to the Etihad, apparently Man City are well placed to sign Bayern Munich's 21-year-old midfielder Jamal Musiala in the summer. Let's see what happens in the 115 charges, I guess. They're also monitoring Nottingham Forest midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White, apparently, but Forest are keen to get him on a new deal. Liverpool apparently interested in signing Angel Gomez from Lille. His contract runs out in the summer, and they were scouting him in England's game against Finland. However, Newcastle are also interested in him, so it'll be a bit of a battle between them. Apparently, Real Sociedad and Spanish midfielder Martin Zubimendi regrets not signing for Liverpool this summer and wants the Reds to come back in for him. So let's see if that happens in January. Arne Slot has come out after their good result against Milan in the week. They won at the San Siro very impressively. He said, Federico Chiesa will be a big asset for us. That's clear. That's what we knew before we signed him. He needs minutes, but he has competition from some good wingers as well. Chiesa was, of course, on Tottenham's list, but went to Liverpool for only about 10 million in the end. Good signing for them. Let's see if he gets some minutes. He looks a little bit overweight to me. I don't know. Let me know, Spurs fans, if you're angry that Tottenham didn't go through with that. Over to Aston Villa, another club who had a great win. 3-0 at Young Boys. Absolutely dominated them. Villa, Forest, Wolves and West Ham apparently among the admirers of Red Bull Salzburg's 24-year-old French defender Oumar Soleil. Newcastle are tracking Leroy Sané, apparently, who's out of contract at the end of the season. He's only 28. I can't see him going to Newcastle. There'll be bigger clubs in for him, surely. A bit of a weird one here. Apparently, Everton boss Sean Dyche is considering a shock move for Newcastle goalkeeper Nick Pope to replace Jordan Pickford. Why, if you're Nick Pope, would you leave Newcastle, where you're number one, to go to Everton, who don't have an owner? They've got a new ground that's going up, but they don't have any money. That's not going to happen. Sticking at Everton, their American businessman John Textor, who's trying to buy them. He's the Crystal Palace shareholder. He's trying to sell his shares at Crystal Palace so he can buy Everton, and he wants Jay-Z to join his bid to buy Everton. Let's see what happens there. West Ham and Man United are keen on Germany midfielder Leon Goretzka, who's unhappy after losing his place at Bayern Munich. Chelsea, now this isn't a huge surprise to me. Chelsea apparently open to letting Mykhailo Mudryk leave the club in January. Marseille apparently interested in him. Now this will be interesting because I agree with Rory Jennings and quite a few Chelsea fans who say that Mudryk is garbage. And maybe garbage is strong, but he doesn't do it for me. He's not good enough. He only shows flashes, but he's on like an 8 or 9 year contract. So if they want to sell him, who is going to take on the burden of that contract? Chelsea would have to pay him off in a massive way. And so it'll be interesting to see whether Mudryk gets a move. Meanwhile, apparently Crystal Palace and Ipswich are looking at Ben Chilwell, who's still only 27. Surely he can go to a bigger club than Palace or Ipswich, but Chelsea don't want him at the moment. Meanwhile, some general transfer news. Eintracht Frankfurt and Egypt striker Omar Mamouche, 25-year-old, he's keen to secure a Premier League move. And Liverpool, Arsenal, Palace and West Ham are all looking at him apparently. I wanted to talk a little bit about Bayern Munich's 9-2 win over Dynamo Zagreb. They became the first side in the Champions League era to score 9 goals in a single game, while Harry Kane, Sir Harry of Kane, became the highest scoring Englishman in the Champions League ever, and the first player to score a hat-trick of penalties in a single match. Bayern had 60 touches in the opposition box, 29 shots, 19 on target, and finished the game with an XG of 6.27. Harry Kane said this after the game: "I keep all the balls after scoring hat-tricks. The lads might be sick of signing them, but keep them coming. My son Louis, he loves playing football right now. I'll take it home and put it next to his bed, and he'll be happy when he wakes up in the morning." I love that. Anyone who goes in on Harry Kane, I just don't get it. You give him chances, he scores goals. People complaining about him in the summer. Well, for me, I'll keep saying it, I think he was about 60% fit. But the fact is, we didn't make him loads of chances. Get him in a team where you make him loads of chances and he will score loads of goals. And I think if Lee Carsley stays as England manager, he will get loads of chances and he will score loads of goals. And Vincent Kompany, getting Bayern Munich to make loads of chances, even in the Champions League, the top level competition, scored 4 more goals. Final bit of news, a bit of a weird one. Ivan Perisic, who, don't forget, Spurs let go to Hajduk Split because he had an ACL. He played for Hajduk Split at the end of last season, then they released him. He's just joined PSV Eindhoven as a free agent. Good luck to you, Ivan Perisic. Great crosser of the ball. We could do with some of his crossing, to be honest. Anyway, guys, bit of a bumper edition today. Thanks for sticking with me. Please do press that like button. Please do subscribe. And please spread the word about the channel to any fellow Spurs fans or people like Premier League news and transfer news. And do become a member, only £1 a month. All the details of how to become a YouTube member or a Patreon member in the description box below. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Cheers.